preferred stock can be different from common stock in a number of ways. And in this video, we're going to discuss some of the characteristics that can make preferred stock really unique. So first thing is to understand is preferred stock comes in a lot of different flavors. So one firm's preferred stock might have completely different features than another firm's stock. And matter of fact, the same firm might have multiple classes of preferred stock. So class 1 and then class 2 might be completely different, even though it's the same firm that has both outstanding, right? So class 1, for example, could be convertible, and then class 2 could be callable. And these are different features, different types of preferred stock that different people hold, but it's the same firm. So let's get into specifically what some of these features are. And one is preferred stock is typically cumulative. And cumulative is basically saying that preferred shareholders are owed a dividend before the common shareholders can be paid a dividend. Owed a dividend before, and I'll just abbreviate this, the common shareholders. And so what I mean by this is previous year's dividend. So let's say that there's 3 years in a row that the preferred shareholders are not given a dividend. And then the firm decides, well, let's issue a dividend to our common shareholders. Can't do it because first you have to recoup and cover the previous year's dividends that you missed for the preferred shareholders before you can issue a dividend to the common shareholders. And that's cumulative. Now, again, not every class of preferred stock is going to have this feature. It depends on the firm and it depends on the class of stock. So one firm might have one class of stock that has this feature, and they might have another class that doesn't have that feature. Another feature of preferred stock that's common is called participating. Preferred stock can be participating. And participating can be a little confusing, but the idea is that if there's some threshold for dividends for common shares, and if the amount of dividends that are set as this threshold, if it exceeds that, if it exceeds this dividend, then the preferred shareholders get to share in the dividend. So if this dividend here, let's say we think that it's going to be X, and it's actually X plus 5, then the preferred shareholders get to share in some of the dividend above and beyond what that threshold is. Now, the threshold is set by the firm when it creates this class of stock. So it could be anything. But basically, the main idea is there's some target. We say, okay, if dividends to the common shareholders exceed this amount, then the preferred shareholders get to share some of that extra benefit. An easier to understand feature of common or preferred stock that's very common is convertibility. And this is actually one of the features that, again, kind of makes preferred stock similar to debt in some ways, because there's a lot of bonds that have convertibility, and likewise preferred stock has convertibility into common shares, right? So it might have something where you say, okay, you have one share of preferred stock, you have the option, you're not obligated, but the option to convert to, let's say, 15 shares of common stock. So if at any point in time a preferred shareholder says, you know what, I'd actually rather have 15 shares of common stock, they can go ahead and exercise that option. And it's similar to like a convertible bond. And another thing similar to bonds is there's actually callability features in some classes of preferred stock. What the callability is basically the firm has the right to repurchase the preferred stock. Let's see here, right of repurchase. Now, so there might be some set amount, let's say $35. So at any time, and that'd be per share. So at any time, if the firm decides, you know what, we just want to call in the preferred stock, we're going to pay $35 a share to get that stock back. Well, they can do that if it has this callability feature, just like how debt and bonds can be callable. And then also some preferred stock actually is redeemable. And by redeemable, what we're talking about, like it actually, the firm would have to pay at the end of a certain, maybe it's at the end of 3 years or something. The firm doesn't have an option to repurchase. They actually have to give money. They actually have to redeem that preferred stock, similar to debt, right? With debt, it reaches a maturity date, and you have to actually repay the lender. Well, preferred stock, in some cases, if it's redeemable, you actually have to redeem it just like you would debt. Now, preferred stock, in a lot of cases, now this just goes to show that not all the features are necessarily positive of preferred stock. And in many cases, it's non-voting. So, although, got an end there. So, in many cases, we have kind of this situation where we have the common shareholders, and they get the vote, and they have the ownership and so forth of the firm. But the preferred shareholders, it's almost more like debt. In a sense, I mean, it's not debt, but it's kind of have many features of the debt, right? They get priority over the dividends. Then in some cases, they even get priority in a bankruptcy, where they actually get first claim on the assets before the common shareholders. The pecking order would be debt, and then preferred shareholders, and then common shareholders would get everything that's left. So basically, preferred shareholders has all these benefits, but ultimately, a lot of firms, it's the vote. The vote is actually reserved for the common shareholders. So in any event, it's important to remember that although preferred shares of stock aren't as common as common shares, they are something that you see that a lot of firms will have this special class of stock, and it may have one or it might have all of the features that we discussed here. So it's important to look at that specific firm and see what are the features that are inherent in the class of preferred stock that you're